Hi everyone, welcome to Slice of Life. My name is Dabney. I'm the young adult librarian at the Twin Lakes Library System and I use they, them pronouns. For today's episode, I am going to be doing anime reviews of the new anime that we have in our collection. So we're just going to get started. There's a lot to go through. I think I have 8 series and 1 movie. So starting off, we've got Tokyo Ghoul Re. This is part 2. So this is the end of Tokyo Ghoul. I was sad. I'm wearing my shirt today to talk about this. So if you've never watched Tokyo Ghoul, essentially ghouls are like people. They look like people, except the only thing they can eat to survive is humans. So this creates problems. As you can imagine, ghouls are very oppressed, and there's a agency in Japan, the CCG, and their job is to hunt down and exterminate ghouls. So in this part of the anime, things have kind of come to a head between these two groups, and things are getting dire. I waited to read the manga first before I finished up the anime because I, didn't want to be spoiled, I suppose. I'm just weird. I want to read the manga first. But I really, really loved how they adapted it into the anime. I just spent a lot of time kind of gushing over how pretty the characters are, and how good the animation was, and how much I enjoyed it. So it is, I will say, very gory and violent, so be aware of that. But yeah, it's one of my favorites. I really liked it. You can read the manga and check out the previous seasons of, there's just Tokyo Ghoul before this. But anyways, you can get all of that at the library. And I will say, even though this is in a Blu-ray case, for everything I'm talking about today, with one exception, which I will bring to your attention, these also have DVDs in here. So it's Blu-ray and DVD. Alright, we've got Attack on Titan Season 3, Part 1. I did not actually watch this one. I kind of stopped watching Attack on Titan just as a personal thing, but I think I might get back to it once it's completely done and it's over. I'm still reading the manga, so we've got the manga and the previous seasons of the anime you can check out at the library. So Attack on Titan, kind of similar to Tokyo Ghoul because humans are again being eaten. In this case, they're being eaten by titans. It's really terrifying and gory and violent, and there's lots of action in both of these animes. So if you're a fan of action, check these out. So in Attack on Titan, you've got sort of these elite warriors who are battling titans, and then as you progress further into the story, it gets very, very complex, and there's lots of conspiracy and backstory that happens. I've been reading the manga for a long time now, and I'm very confused. I don't know if that's on me or on the story, but whatever. Okay, so next we have Fruits Basket Season 1, Part 2. Fruits Basket is all the joy. It's so beautiful. The animation is lovely. The story is very heartfelt. I kind of in my mind always think of it as being light and fluffy and happy, and then as I was watching the anime, I was I forgot about all of the really sad and like traumatic stuff that happens to some of the characters. So basic plot overview, there is this family, the Soma family, and they have been cursed. So throughout generations, certain people within their family are born with this ability to turn into animals from the Chinese zodiac if they're hugged by someone of the opposite sex. So in this case, you've got Yuki. He's one of the main characters, and he turns into a rat. And, you might think that's kind of gross, but actually all of the animal versions are really, really adorable and cute. So in this story, Toru Honda, she ends up living with Yuki and some of his family members, and she's just the most pure-hearted character of all time, even though she's been through a lot in her life, and she kind of brings like this very positive and healing energy to the Soma family, who, wow, if you want to talk about dysfunctional families and tragic backstories and all that, they have it. So, for the most part, I'd say this is like very sweet and cute, but it does have its dark moments, and you get all the feels. I love so many of the characters, and it's delightful. This is a reboot of the original anime, which I think came out in the 90s, so we also have that at the library if you want to check it out. It is very old as far as like animation and everything. And then we also have part 1, and we have all of the manga, so you should check those out. Alright, this one I did not know anything about. I'm hoping I'm saying this right. I think it's Touken Ranbu Hanamura. Anyways, I just finished this one last night. It is based on a Japanese game that's not available here, sadly, because I would play it after watching this. Essentially, you've got like all these famous swords from Japanese history, and they are given human form. So this is like set in the future, and all of the swords are guys, and they all live together at the Citadel, and they are sometimes sent on missions into the past to fight this like other, like, I guess it's kind of like an army of like evil warriors who are trying to like manipulate history and change history. And so the swords are sent to fight them. So that's part of it. But honestly, most of the time, these are just like really sweet and funny slice of life episodes about like what they're doing around the Citadel. And I just every episode I loved so much, and there's 12 episodes, and they follow the months of the year, so January through December. There are tons of characters, so don't get overwhelmed, just kind of roll with it, because off the bat you're just being introduced to like guy after guy, and you're like, who are you? And I will also say I love the art, I love the character designs, and I don't really know if I had a favorite character just from like watching it through once, but I honestly want to watch it again because it was just so delightful. Alright, then this one was another one I didn't know very much about, but it is monthly Girls Nozaki-kun, and I laughed so much watching this, and I usually it takes kind of a lot to make me genuinely laugh, and this one, in my mind, it kind of reminded me a lot of like Barakamon and Honda-kun, but the main character is Chiyo, and she ends up becoming friends with Nozaki-kun, who is her classmate there in high school, and she finds out that Nozaki is the writer and illustrator of a shoujo manga, a girls manga. So he writes under like a pen name. So this is like a huge shock to her, and she ends up kind of helping him be and like becomes one of his assistants. And in the while she's helping him, she meets some of his guy friends who also kind of fill in as assistants. And so those are some of the characters, and then you've got like all these girl characters too who are just like foils to the guys, and they're all really unique and funny, and I like them all pretty much equally. Like, they're all just very entertaining, and some of the storylines especially just made me laugh so much. So yeah, definitely recommend this. It is based like on it was, I think, originally like a Japanese webcomic, and now is a manga, and I really want to read the manga now because this was so much fun. Alright, now we've got Carnival, the complete series. So as far as I know, they're not making any more, which is sad because we have the manga in our collection. The manga is still ongoing. So this kind of completes like one story arc within the manga, and then it's like done. But the art for this is so cute. It's just the cutest ever, basically. And you know, the storyline is a little bit wacky and complex in my opinion, but you've kind of got these two groups who are like combating each other. So you've got Kafka. They are a group who like does experiments on humans and are making these like monstrous creatures, and they have this big agenda, you know, like take over the world. And Carnival is the government group who is fighting against Kafka, and they travel around the country as circus, so they're known as circus. And it's like they come to these different towns and they like battle Kafka, and then they put on a circus show for the townspeople as kind of a like sorry for fighting in your town and scaring you. Now we're gonna entertain you. I'm like, that is so weird, but whatever. It's cute. It's fun. And then the two main characters, there's Nai and then Gariki, and they get rescued by circus and get taken onto one of the circus airships, and they're basically living with them and traveling with them and helping them out while circus tries to learn more about Nai, who there's a lot going on with Nai that I will not talk about because of spoilers, but it's really good. Again, mostly cuteness, but there is some like, you know, action, and occasionally you get some like really sad storylines that you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But yeah. Okay, another one that I did not know about at all, the Morose Mononokean, and the main character of this, Ashia, he is just starting out in high school, and he accidentally attracts the attention of a yokai, which is a Japanese spirit, and the yokai like latches onto his back. He's the only one who can see it. No one else can, and it's like gradually draining his life force. So I think like his first week at school, he never even makes it into class. He's like continually passing out and having to go to the nurse's office. But while he's there, he meets Abeno, who is the Mononokean, and Abeno's job is he works for the yokai and like solves their problems. He doesn't work for humans, but he ends up helping Ashia out, and then Ashia is therefore like indebted to him, and he's like, okay, you're going to work offer your debt to me as like my assistant in training. And so Ashia is learning more about the yokai and helping like Abeno resolve these cases for the yokai. So some of the episodes kind of have like start out with sort of a like spooky, scary sort of scenario, and then it's like resolved once you realize like, oh, the yokai, they're fine, they're not actually scary or whatever. And I wouldn't say like there's it's more of an episodic anime. There's not really a very complex overarching story, I guess. It's just mostly the two of them like working together to solve cases. So it's fun. There's a lot of humor in it. Yeah. Okay, you know how I said one of these is strictly Blu-ray? This one is only on Blu-ray. It doesn't have any DVD in the case, unfortunately. It is Bloom Into You, so this is a shoujo ai anime, which means it's a girls love anime. And we do have the manga in our collection, so you could check that out if you want. But this is about Yu. She has just started high school, and she ends up helping out with the student council, and that's where she meets her senpai, Nanami, and you know, they're like working together in student council, and you know, Yu, like all of her friends have like crushes on people, or you know, they want to date people, and she's just like, she doesn't understand romance or love. She's just not interested. It's not a thing for her, and she's like, she just doesn't get it like at all. And you know, she tells this to Nanami, and then Nanami is saying like, well, she's never met anyone who made like her heart flutter. But guess what? That changes. And so this is just kind of like a really sweet, kind of slow burn love story between them, and also just like a really nice like high school story, and I really enjoy it. I haven't finished watching the anime actually, because there's one more volume of the manga left, and I have to finish it before I finish this. So anyways, but you can check all these out from the library. Okay, and last of all, we have our movie, which is Promar, and I hope I said that right, but I really love this so much. I could just sit down and watch it now. I've seen it twice already, which is kind of a big deal for me because I actually rarely watch anything. The reason I watched all this anime is because I knew I was gonna do this episode, so it was like homework for me. But anyways, the first time I watched this, I typically watch anime in Japanese with the English subtitles. So that's what I did the first time I watched this, and it was kind of overwhelming because the animation there's like a lot going on visually, so it was kind of hard for me to follow all that and read the subtitles. So the second time I watched this with the English dub, and in my opinion, that was much better for me, and I actually really love the English dub for this a lot. So either way, you'll be good. But this was like a very off the wall kind of story to me. Like, what? It's just mind blowing. But so you've got the main characters, Leo and Gallo, and so in this world, there is a mutation that had like manifested about 30 years in the past, where certain people with the mutation were able to like control fire and like manifest fire, and you know, like I think originally it started as like spontaneous combustions that people couldn't really control. But then some people, like, they were able to use this ability, and they were being, like, really oppressed. And so I think just, like, a lot of them came together and started this, like, huge, I think it's called, like, the Great Burn or something, and it was, like, this massive global disaster of fire. And so, 30 years in the future, the people with this mutation, they're known as Burnish, and there's a group called Mad Burnish who are, like, working to kind of protect the Burnish, but also, like, fight back against these, like, oppressive governments. So you've got the Burnish on one side, like Mad Burnish, and then you've got the firefighters, and there's a group that Gallo belongs to known as, like, Burning Rescue. And anyways, it was really interesting, like, some of the firefighters, like, get in these, like, mech suits to fight fire, and it was really so anime. Watching this, I'm like, that's just so anime. It's, like, very, guys yelling all the time. I love it. It was great. So lots of action, lots of drama, and yeah, I don't want to say too much because of spoilers, but I loved it, and it's one of my favorites. And I love the animation, I love the characters, I love the soundtrack, and I love some of, like, the ways that they kind of I don't know exactly how to say it. It's like they definitely play up tropes within anime, and I really appreciated that a lot. And yeah, it was so much fun. I highly recommend it, and it's PG-13, by the way. Okay, and that is it for our anime, so please check these all out. We have even more in our collection, so yeah. And I will say my last thing, just to let you guys know, that we do have 2 new TV shows, and I haven't watched either one of them, but Looking for Alaska, a mini-series based on the book by John Green, and then Legacies Season 1, which is, like, a spin-off of The Vampire Diaries and the originals. So, even more to check out from the library. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you all later. Bye!